Good morning, and thanks so much for tuning into the trade setup. I'm Niraj Shah, and remember the macros or the macro technicals are against us. And what I mean by that is that crude yields, etc., are all against risk assets, and I'll get to that in a moment. First, the global news flow. The US 10-year Treasury yield topped the 4.80 mark after hot retail sales data. In fact, the European markets, which were high at a point of time, closed lower from those highs after the same US retail sales data. That was hot, and that led to what the yields have done. And coupled with that, oil has jumped above the $91 per barrel mark as the Gaza hospital blast just kind of ratchets up the regional tensions. US, in fact, has said China has stepped up risky moves in the South China Sea. So the geopolitics at the other shore as well is not quite pleasant. I must say, this is not the most pleasant setup to be in for risk assets. That we are resilient is another story, and a lot of flows, and the fact that India is still an oasis of calm is probably aiding all of that. Let's see if that holds out during the course of the next few days. Well, of course, ceteris paribus. I certainly hope that on all fronts things de-escalate. So the US markets had I'm kind of a nothing kind of a day. Flat for the Dow and the S&P, the Nasdaq down another 0.25%, but nothing too meaningful. The only change, as I said, was the 10-year Treasury yield, which was now at 4.83, and that's quite strong, really. The GIFT Nifty may be indicating a flattish start to marginally higher to marginally lower. Of late, I think, it just becomes difficult to look at the GIFT Nifty at a particular point of time and determine what the index would do, to be very honest. So what's the trade setup? Yesterday Nifty reclaimed the 21-day moving average, which is actually a key critical technical level, and banking and financial stocks outperformed in the session. But it's becoming difficult to predict the daily market moves due to the resilience on the higher crude and higher yields thus far. Like I said, normally you look at this setup, you would feel that there will be a bit of a risk off, but we had a positive day yesterday with FIs too putting a net positive number. So that's the conundrum, and therefore I don't get into this game of trying to say that today you should trade long or trade short. It's just very difficult. Maybe give you the statistics, maybe give you what some of the quant indicators are indicating. Very difficult to really point out what the index would do on any given day. PSU stocks are still the flavor, I must say, especially at the mid cap end. And yesterday, for example, again you saw a clutch of names. There was I remember an ITI, a set of other PSU names which actually had a really strong up move in trade. And the other set of stocks which had a very strong traction was housing finance yesterday. For some matter, real estate ancillaries per se stood out. There were some piping companies which did well and otherwise, but as a pocket, if you look at it, housing finance had a very strong traction day. Look at Aptus, look at Home First, Canfin Homes, PNB Housing Finance. Some very strong movers in trade yesterday. As a bucket, if you look at it, housing finance stocks had some strong moves. And I think, we'll be talking to Canfin Homes later today. So it'll be interesting to see what some of these housing finance companies have to say and what they do in the quarter as well in terms of performance. Speaking of the quarter, it's an important day of results. Large names coming out with the results. So on the index, you have Wipro, LTIMindtree, Bajaj Auto, and IndusInd Bank. But that's not all, by the way. Non-index, Polycab, as large as it comes when it comes to wires and cables, and a stock that has shown a really strong move coming out with numbers. Astral, there is Bandhan Bank which comes out with numbers. Excuse me for ICICI Lombard, but the others like Astral, Bandhan, Persistent Systems, very strong mid-cap IT services or IT product name. Z Entertainment would come out with numbers, and then IIFL Finance, which has done well. And by the way, we know that the capital market plays are doing well. So UTI Asset Management and 5paisa Capital also would be very, very important numbers to track. And 5paisa in particular, because of what Angel or ISEC have already done, extremely strong showing there. And therefore, all eyes will be whether 5paisa is the other one which can kind of emulate what some of its larger peers have done. Now, speaking of what companies have done, and it's a long list of stocks which will be reacting to news flow or results today. So let me start off with the tech companies because a lot of tech companies came out with the results. LTTS, the first one, revenues at 3.5% at 2386 crores, almost in line with estimates at 2387. EBIT margin actually did really well, 17% versus estimated 16.68. But the PAT was up just 1.21% at 315, in line with estimates. So if you look at this plate, you would think that LTTS came out all guns blazing and all was rosy. The problem is that the company has cut the guidance. It now expects 17.5 to 18.5% constant currency growth versus 20% earlier. Now, my way, this is not a bad number. 17, and even if they do the lower end, 17 and a half is not a bad number, but it is a cut in guidance, and it's a cut in guidance by a company that is trading at expensive valuations. Therein lies the issue. It won 7 large deals, by the way, out of which 6 deals are about $15 million plus. Attrition rates stood at 16.7% versus 18.9%. And in fact, the headcount addition happened there. So on all those counts, it actually did really well. But yes, the numbers, the guidance cut is a problem. Now, I very quickly take a moment and just tell you, for example, Morgan Stanley is saying that the good results are offset by the cut in revenue growth guidance. They are underweight, and the reason is the same. With premium valuation and strong stock performance since the last results, the stock could underperform. So that is the problem when it comes to LTTS. Strong performance, but a guidance cut and premium valuations. So watch out for this one. Tata Elxsi, I thought did okay. Revenues up 3.69% at 881 versus 875. EBIT margin at 27% versus estimated 26.5. And PAT up 5.9% at 200 crores versus the estimated 191 crores. Almost on all counts, Tata Elxsi either met or beat expectations. Well, let's see. It's not cheap stock either, but has done well. Let's see if it does well on the bourses. Zensar, the issue with Zensar is that the revenue growth number wasn't the strongest, 1.1%. At 1240, the estimate was 1249. So in line with estimates, but not the strongest. But the EBIT margin number, much better, 15.65 versus estimated 12.49. And PAT up 11.3% at 174 crores versus estimated 130 crores. So strong showing by Zensar on EBIT and PAT, maybe reacts positively. At the other end, Happiest Minds, now decent revenue performance, but the EBIT margin performance was weak, 16.73 versus 19.21, and the PAT performance 0.2% higher versus at 58 crores. So that left a bit to be desired. So good revenue growth, not good EBIT growth. Happiest Minds could correct maybe because of that. Let's wait and watch. But as I said, the revenue numbers were okay. Let's see if the street likes that. Okay, we are out of tech into a bunch of others. The big boy Bajaj Finance numbers. And I thought the HSBC note summed up the numbers and the outlook very well. So bringing that, they were buy. They were target price raised to 9620 from 9500. They said the target price is based on 6.3 times FY25 book value per share. And the reasons, higher loan growth and healthy ROA will drive returns. The second quarter loan growth was broad-based. Profitability guidance remains healthy. And HSBC on its part increased the FY24 to 26 EPS estimates to reflect higher AUM growth outlook. So that's the view from HSBC on Bajaj Finance. There are, others too, which have given their view. So Jeffries, for example, on BAF, says that the strong asset growth, albeit at lower NIMs, but it stays amongst the top NBFC ideas. Their target price has been increased from 8830 to 9470, which is a 17% uptick. The fact remains that Bajaj Finance is a business that at every point of time when there are some calls given out for there being issues there, it comes up with phenomenal performances and lays to ground all the concerns. This quarter, yet another piece like that. So watch out for Bajaj Finance today, may do well. For both Himadri and Huhtamaki, revenue numbers were a disappointment, margins were strong. So Himadri, revenues, they were not up, they were down 5% to 1,000 crores versus 1,058 crores. But the margin improved, 15.69% versus 9.77%, as a result of which the net profit 180% at 100 crores versus 35 crores. There were some one-offs as well. But more importantly, the margin performance was exemplary for Himadri Specialty Chemicals. Huhtamaki, revenues down 13.86% at 662 versus 769. but the margins improved at 6.9% versus 2.98%, as a result of which the net profit at 32.27 crores versus 4 lakhs. So for both of these names, difficult to say what will happen. Revenue growth numbers were disappointing, but the margin performance and bottom line exemplary. Then VST Industries, revenues up 2.86%, but the margins came off at 17.44 versus 21. PAT down 17% as a result to 75 crores. Certainly not the best revenue number, and the margin coming off. Similarly, for CI Automotive actually was in line with estimates, so no big shakes there. Just that the bottom line number improved quite dramatically. I'm guessing on account of some one-offs or other income. So watch out for CIE. But Syngene, which has had a terrific run in the last few, both fundamentally on the stock front, may be a case of disappointment on the margin front. But the revenue number, by the way, very strong. 910 crores was 915, and more importantly, 18.5% growth. I think the street would want to give it a benefit of doubt for 1 quarter on the margin, this thing, a margin underperformance, because the revenue number still continues to look very, very strong. Non-results, Hudco, the government will sell up to 7% stake via an OFS at a floor price is at a discount of 12%. So maybe the stock reacts negatively. Biocon may react negatively. The US FDA has determined inspection classification at Malaysia manufacturing unit of Biocon Biologics as OAI. Official action initiated. OAI status may cause delay as well as withholding of pending product approvals or supplements from the facility. Therefore, Biocon could have a negative reaction. Zomato could have a positive reaction. IRCTC is tied up with the company for supply and delivery of pre-ordered meals. 5 railway stations to be tested as proof of concept. And then if it expands, certainly could mean more meaningful business for Zomato. Watch out for this one. Is at some terrific upticks the last few days. Bajaj Electricals has received an order, so watch out for that one. And Aditya Vision, HDFC Mutual Fund has bought 95,000 shares at 2,600 apiece. So watch out for this one as well. Very quickly, filling you in on the companies that will talk to us today on results. So, okay, firstly, market mood. Abhay Agarwal, founder of Piper Serica, was sitting on large oodles of cash. Maybe his call is turning out to be true, maybe not. We'll talk to him at 10 a.m. on Talking Point on what is his view going ahead. In a clutch of result conversations. I think Amit Chadda of LTTS becomes the most important one because of the guidance cut. But watch out for Canfin Homes because of the strong performance and the delivery as well. And the Happiest Minds duo joins in to talk about what went right and more importantly, what went wrong on the margins front. That will play out at 12:30 today. Manish Tandon of Zensar, after a very strong quarter, will be talking to us at 1 p.m. today. And Jonathan Hunt of Syngene becomes a really important conversation just to understand what happens in the quarters ahead, because the stock and the companies put up some very strong performance in the quarters that have gone by. So watch out for these two as well. And of course, the mutual fund show with Mohit Gang as well as Nisreen Mamaji today. Thanks so much for tuning in to Trade Setup.